And good morning. It's time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by Renegade River in Spring Lake. And here's your eager host, Mike Hewitt.
Man, I'm eager. I was shocked.
Yes, he is. He is eager. He's like a horse at the gate.
I'm telling you.
And ready to go.
Chomping at the bit.
Chomping to the bit is being chomped.
Now, the truth of it, folks, is I'm sitting here sipping on my coffee saying, how long do I have? And boom, the music's on. And I go,
hey,
right now it looks like I got to lean forward, wake up, slap myself, and jump right in.
You don't need to waste time. And we've got a very efficient Brian Thomas running the board and hopefully providing some commentary. Hey, I promoted this show on the Talkin' Muskegon show just last hour and encouraged, and I hope we're still doing this, but encouraged folks to phone in if they've got a comment or a question.
What's the number?
Well, the number is 231.
He's got to look it up.
830-3109. I do have to look it up, even though I probably said it about 150 million times.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yes, it is. Well, it's not funny. It's quite sad.
For 2 years, for 2 years with all the guests that I've had on the show, every time I went to say the call-in number is X, I had to look it up again.
Yeah.
I said, there must be something wrong with me.
Well, there is, but it has nothing to do with your ability to remember phone numbers.
Speaking of something wrong, I'm driving down the road this morning. It's just a couple minutes after 8. You're on the radio, and I don't know if Muskegon can take 2 hours of Jim Riley. I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I'm
legitimate comment.
I'm feeling bad for the folks. But then here's what I hear. I hear my own entrance to this show on that show.
Ooh, Norman.
Spirit in the Sky.
Yes, Norman Greenbaum.
I thought, jeepers, am I an hour late? Can that possibly be? Did I miss the boat? Got Riley babbling about nothing.
Well,
Spirit in the Sky is on. I might have been late. I wasn't sure.
Well, of course. Okay, maybe a little
April
explanation.
Fools.
It is not April Fool's.
It could have been April Fool's.
April Fool's.
Imagine you're out there with friends, you're hearing that song come up, all of a sudden you're introing your show.
Right. Imagine sitting in the studio.
It's showtime because Norman Greenbaum is singing.
Is there?
Well,
there
and you
go.
can imagine the disappointment if after that little clip being played on the Talkin' Muskegon show, the disappointment of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of radio listeners who did not immediately hear that happy voice of Mike Hewitt. We went back to actually a car accident for poor old Norman.
He hit a motorcycle.
Well, actually, no. What happened? Okay, your promo music is Spirit in the Sky. Big hit, a monster hit, amazingly. Norman Greenbaum back in 1969. And
seems like only yesterday.
Well, it does, especially if you listen to this show.
Especially for a fellow your age.
Well, 69 was a big year for me, man. Hanging in. Michigan State getting drafted. Oh, it was wonderful.
25th birthday that year?
There we go. Wow, no, a little younger than that, but not by much. But nonetheless, so Norman Greenbaum was he was a passenger in a vehicle that made a turn in front of a motorcycle, and the motorcyclist was killed.
And he was seriously injured.
And Norman Greenbaum, the one-hit wonder of the day, was seriously injured.
Didn't he have more hits than that song?
You know what? I'm sure that he did. I'm sure that he had more music. I just remember back in the day. Remember in certainly the 50s and the 60s, even into the 70s, everybody changed their names, being ethnic in any manner. John Daly. Or John Stewart changed his name from I believe he's Jewish, and he changed his name from a Jewish name into a kind of an innocuous, waspy kind of name.
I don't know if that's always an ethnic type of thing as much as it is as a pronunciation and memory type of thing.
Well, that may be.
If you have a name with 35 letters in it, that
you mean like Norman Greenbaum?
Right, Greenbaum.
And he did not change his name. That was my point.
That doesn't
back in the day, it was a little unusual.
That doesn't have 35 letters in it, and that may explain part of your problem. It's a possibility.
Well, whatever. It's not a problem. I just thought it was kind of cool. It was a very memorable name, and it was cut away from Jan and Dean and the Beach Boys types.
That was some good music.
And it was kind of a religious song, too, at a time when, in the 60s.
Right.
Religion wasn't ballyhooed.
I think more so then than now. Now it's attacked. But listen.
Well, and there's a segue.
Thank you very much. Listen, on our list of things to talk about today, well beyond the car accident that happened to our theme song generator, short list, religious liberty, government discrimination versus private discrimination. And I want to tie a couple things together, if I might, because the next thing on my list, and I quote myself, "My, what a clean server you have." And now the U.S. House of Representatives would like to have Hillary Clinton under oath discuss what happened to her server. But the reason those two topics fit together is that you watch the Indiana governor sign the Religious Freedoms Act, which was a mirror of what Bill Clinton had signed back in the 90s. And the uber left, not the average Democrat, but the uber left went absolutely bananas.
Well, it wasn't just the uber left; it was the media. I mean,
It's been the
top.
uber left.
It's been the top news story on TV and radio for 3 days.
Jim, the media is the uber left.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So yeah, okay.
If a political party had a calling card, we'd call it the media.
Well,
they do the handiwork for the Democrat National Committee and for all of the folks that fall far left. Not centrist Democrats, by the way.
It does appear to be the public relations arm of the Democrat Party. I would agree with you.
But listen, here's what I would submit to you. I would submit that these two stories fit together because I think all of the hoopla over absolutely nothing to do with the Indiana Religious Freedoms Bill was designed to take your attention off the fact that Hillary... it was finally disclosed that Hillary didn't just delete 30,000 emails. Can you imagine doing that one at a time? She actually wiped the server clean. I don't know how deceitful that person can possibly be.
Cue sound effect of toilet flushing.
You got it.
Well,
there it goes.
It is. Well, it's not just flushing of the email and what was on that server.
Yeah.
It's the flushing of the what is traditional is in the United States, the very, very wealthy, the very, very powerful used to be subject to the same laws that the rest of us were subject to.
They were.
And now we're finding in the new America, I guess, if you are a powerful, well-known, politically connected, uber wealthy, massively wealthy and popular among the mainstream media, seemingly you can get away with darn near anything. Remember, these emails were subject to subpoena. Can you imagine if you got a subpoena that said you must deliver this information to the federal government and you just said, no, I decided to delete it?
In October.
What would happen to you? And what would the media do if, in fact, it was, let's say it was Rand Paul or you name it?
All of the interviews and the press conference that she did, which was an absolute joke, and the little fun she had talking to the professional journalist gathering, she had already wiped the entire server clean months before.
So she knew She
knew the whole time that what she's doing. Forget what you think about the importance of the emails. I personally think they belong to the United States government. Having said that, she's making a mockery of people to stand up there and have those cutesy conversations, knowing she wiped it clean. But listen, that's really not what I want to get at today. Really what I want to get at is that they've used the Indiana governor's signing of the exact same bill that Bill Clinton signed, only on a state level, that, 16 or 19 other states already have a similar law.
And Arkansas, actually, just yesterday voted for it.
All of Facebook, all of the media exploded over that, and nobody is having time to talk about the fact that she cleaned her server. And that was the purpose of the uber left going crazy, because they wanted everyone, even me, by the way. My Facebook page yesterday was absolutely dedicated to talking about religious freedom, rather than the fact that woman deleted her server. I just find that grossly insulting. In a free society, that we have a Secretary of State that doesn't feel that she has any form of debt owed to the American public for the actions that she's taken. I just find that over the top.
There are I would say in many cases there are evil, there are deceitful, and people who violate the laws and the rules and the mores in our country. Typically, our society demands that they don't get away with it. What is stunning to me is not that there's a bad person who's trying to cover up some things that they don't want people to be known, but the fact is that she's doing it in such a blatantly open, basically unapologetic way, and getting away with it, because this is she's not going to go down. President Nixon, who did essentially the same thing. President Nixon would not have lost his presidency if the media would have supported him. He went down. He lost the support of the Republicans in good measure because the media was saying, you are subject to the same laws as every other citizen in this country, and we're not going to let you get away with it. That whole concept seems to have been tossed out the window.
But that's the difference. I don't see any moves from the Democratic Party, to do what the Republican Party did with Nixon. The Republican Party sat down and said, Dick, you have got to go. They're not doing that with her. Everyone's saying emails, that's no big deal. Stop it. Let's move on to religious liberty. They're not talking about it. They're not going to whisper in her ear and saying you're hurting our party, or more importantly, you're hurting our country. They're not having that conversation. They're saying, let's talk about what the bill, what bill he signed that was already signed by a Democratic president.
Well,
that's not news.
Can we talk a little bit about the bill? Because there's so much misinformation on the news, television, radio, and in print even. And of course, you know this. There is a very, very enormously wealthy and powerful group of Americans who are, their number one issue is the support for gay rights and the expansion of gay rights in the United States. And whether that's good, bad, or otherwise, it exists. And their view is that anyone who would have the audacity to even say something as relatively innocuous, like the president of Chick-fil-A had said, that he believes that marriage ought to be between a man and a woman, that they want to crush those people. They don't want to have a conversation about is the bill a good bill or a bad bill. They want they want America to move to the point that if you even say something like that, or if you even say that folks who have strong religious feelings that may in some way conflict with rights as deemed by the homosexual lobby, that you are a bigot, you should be shunned and banned from public life, you should lose your job, you should never have an opportunity to work ever again, you should not be invited to the various parties that all those folks in the media love to get invited to.
The irony to all that, Jim, is that it works both ways. Okay, first off, the very first thing we have to understand is that we're really talking about property ownership, and who controls the property that we own.
Yes,
that's really the foundation of what this is about. If you drill down to it, so you take me at Renegade River, and in fact, let me read a statement I made from yesterday on Facebook, and I'll end it with, and I'll drive into Renegade River and the policies that I've adopted for my little dinky company. I wrote on Facebook yesterday, and please bear with me, folks, for the rest of the story after I get beyond the paragraph. I write, should a black business owner be forced to serve a member of the KKK? Should the mother of a fallen soldier be forced to serve her child's assailant? Should a gay business owner be forced to serve someone passing out anti-gay literature in front of his or her store? Should I be forced to sell Bill Ayers a firearm? Enough already. We better be very, very careful how far we're willing to allow fascist political correctness to paint over individual freedom. And I say that because if you take the person, the gay couple who own a business, and start demanding that they serve everyone that walks through the front door without any credence, what we're really, because that's the slippery slope. Once we empower the government with the ability to make these decisions over our private business and our personal life and our faith or lack thereof, by the way, we're not in America anymore. We're somewhere else. We're in a very, very different country when the concepts of individual ruggedness and human spirit and the ability to have a freedom of faith doesn't exist, and the ability to guide my business as I see fit.
Well, this all has to do with the law, and we still haven't talked about what the law says.
What's the law
because
say,
that's
Jim?
the key. You are going to be required to either do something, or if you choose not to do it, then you can be sued. So maybe we ought to talk about the law, not just the emotional side of it, because what we're hearing on the radio and TV is purely the emotional side. The homosexual community is out there saying, hey, we have our rights and you shouldn't be able to do this. The Mike Pence, in one of the worst public events I've ever seen in his attempts to defend the bill, did not really talk about the law or what it would do. As a matter of fact, for some reason, the conservatives were offended that he was asked numerous times by George Stephanopoulos the specific result of the law, he refused to answer. Maybe after the break or at some point, hopefully we can talk. What does the law do? Because my question has always been, I thought, aside from a gender, sexual, being a male or female, or aside from race, that if you had a business, a restaurant, you name it, and you could just choose not to serve somebody at will, but apparently that is not the way it is in the United States.
I got to tell you, I think when we will, before we run out of time today, we will touch on the specifics of the law. But the reality of it is that the law versus what the media is willing to do to you are two separate things. Because the law says exactly what you just talked about, and we'll read it when we come back from break. But race, creed, religion, etc., those are the things that we are not allowed to discriminate against, even though, by the way, the government does. They take an example of the EPA as one of the biggest discriminating bodies that there ever was. They'll pick an industry or all kind of different mechanisms to advance their ideology, and they really don't give a rat's butt about what effect that has on society, whether you're part of the protected class or otherwise. They're going to advance their ideological agenda. That's what the EPA is. America got by with it for a very long time, and all of a sudden from 1970 forward, it's turned into this $8 billion plus department that has incredible authority. And it goes to discrimination. Telling me as a business owner, I know that you've got your entire livelihood, your whole world leaned on this business, but we're going to run it for you and tell you who and who you cannot serve. It's crazy to me. If Bill Ayers walks in and wants to buy a firearm from me, guess what? He's not getting one. Go somewhere else. But here's the irony to it. It's like we keep hearing about the bake sale. The concept that those folks couldn't go find another baker is silly. And I got to ask myself, if I walked in and somebody didn't like a heavy-set guy with glasses and said, we're not going to do your baking, I can go somewhere else. I'm not stuck there. It's not like it's the only alternative.
Well, couldn't that same logic, that same argument be used for someone who didn't like black people?
Yep. I guess it could.
But it can't, because we have laws that are different.
We have laws to protect them.
Well, we have different laws than this one.
Should.
We have different laws to not protect them, although I suppose that is a protection, but in fact to provide significant penalties for those people who would discriminate. So are you suggesting, and I guess I'm a little confused here, are you suggesting that people who declare themselves to be homosexual, be gays or lesbians, that they should not have the protection that a white person or a black person, for that matter, or Hispanic or what have you, would have under federal law against the discrimination by a business owner? Or should they have that?
I got to tell you how I feel on this topic. I think capitalism is vastly more powerful than governmentism. And what I mean to say is if a gay couple wants to have services somewhere provided for them, they're going to have it. They just are. I'm not going to turn their money away. If they walk into my shop and want to buy a firearm, providing I'm convinced they're using it for a legal purpose and not to hurt somebody.
But some people have already made that decision. But okay, you're all fond of making that decision for yourself. What about the people who have made the decision, a different decision, said, no, I do not want your business because of my religious beliefs. I will not serve you from my store, entirely different from yours. Okay, they've said, I don't want your money.
Well, let me ask you something. Let's project a little bit. If you're one of the two parties in a gay couple, would you want to proceed with forcing that person to do your wedding or bake your cake?
Apparently, quite a few have. Well, exactly. But they have forced the issue.
But they're using it as a political weapon. They're not using it to advance their wedding.
You're saying what's going on in their mind.
They're making a political war about it.
Okay. And should they not be allowed to make that conversation?
They can most certainly do it. Should this dialogue be used to cover up the fact that the Secretary of State of the United States wiped her server clean rather than to turn over the records, which is what the law that you keep talking about was asking her to do? That's what we're really talking about here today, because the whole thing with this religious freedom thing yesterday and over the last couple of days with Indiana was designed to protect Hillary Clinton. It has nothing to do with all the things.
So you think that Mike Pence and the entire Republican-dominated House and Senate of the state of Indiana decided to vote on this bill?
No.
And Mike Pence decided to spend his whole weekend on television talk shows all as a defense of Hillary Clinton?
No, that's not what I said at all.
Okay, I missed your point.
Well, let's take it from the top. You've already got either 16 or 19, I can't remember what, certainly more than 16 states that have adopted this law, but you haven't.
A similar law,
wait
yes.
a sec, but you haven't heard about any of them. Not a single one made the news. The only one that made the news happened to be the week that Hillary Clinton got caught wiping her server clean. That's not a coincidence.
So
It's just
Mike
not.
Pence is part of the
No, I'm not
vast
saying that.
left-wing conspiracy.
I'm saying that Mike Pence was one of the 16 to 19 states that passed a law. He happened to do it at a time when Hillary Clinton was in the middle of getting founded for wiping her server clean. I think he's a victim of poor timing.
Is that like a political distraction kind of a thing going on?
Yeah, but I don't think Pence was on it. He was just one of states that are slowly lining up to adopt this law. It happened to be that he was the fella that did it when they were trying to look for a way to cover up what she did. Because here we are, we're all debating him and not her. But there were 19 other states that had already done it. So why didn't we talk about every single one of them as each one did it? We're only focused on him. It's because of her.
Well,
I don't know how you can ignore that.
Well, I don't disagree with the fact that one of the pure strengths of certainly the Obama administration and the Clinton administration have always been that they have come up with so many outrages, so many reasons to question their veracity, so many reasons to question their honor, their personal habits, if you will, and they move so quickly that it's hard to focus on any one of them for any period of time. But this is an issue. We're looking at the NCAA basketball tournament coming up Friday or this weekend in Indianapolis, Saturday and Monday. I would be very expecting that we're going to see huge turnout of gay rights groups who want to highlight this issue. I think they're going to highlight it in a different way. I don't think these people are actually big supporters of Hillary Clinton. I think that they're interested in their issue.
Folks, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, I bet Jim Riley and I pick up right there. We'll be right back, folks.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. I'm Mike Hewitt in with Jim Riley, and we're engaged in deep debate. Jim, there are actually 19 states. I looked it up, with Indiana being the 20th. And by the way, I understand that there is legislation being floated in Michigan to adopt what Bill Clinton had advanced back in 96.
Can we talk about what the bill actually talks about? Because so little has really been discussed.
Tell us.
The bill is called the Religious Restoration Act, or Religious Protection Act, I believe it is. Here's the situation. Let's get away from the gay rights situation, but let's just say that you work at a pharmacy, and let's say that you are a devout Catholic, in this case, who does not believe that abortion is something that should be done. Your religion actually tells you that it is a sin, and but you're otherwise a good employee, and someone comes up to your little window there and wants to order one of these abortion pills, the day after kind of a pill. One of the reasons, or one of the things that this bill does, is it allows you to keep your job and not serve that person. All right? In the United States, if you have any other kind of business and you choose to discriminate against a certain group, to the best of my knowledge, it's illegal. I didn't know this, but if prior to these acts, because we do have this Religious Protection Act that is a national act, but prior to this, we know that you're not allowed to put a sign up, nor are you allowed to discriminate against someone based on their sex or based on their race. So if somebody comes in and they want to buy a cake from you, and you don't, you say, well, I'm not going to do it for you because you're a female, or because you are black or an Asian or what have you, that person can then sue for violation of federal law. This act primarily, and there's more to it, but this act primarily was put together so that those people who have deeply held religious views can in fact refuse to serve someone who is asking them to do something that they do not want. And let me just finish, because this is the crux of it. Perhaps you're not aware of it. It gives those people who do refuse certain legal protections. Now, it does not allow in any way, shape, or form, not the federal bill, not any of the other state bills, allow somebody to put a sign up and say, we do not serve gays, or we do not serve any other group. But it does allow someone who is sued, and let's use the example of the people who've got a little cake store and gay couple comes in, whatever their motivation was, they come in, that we want a cake. They sued and successfully put at least one and perhaps even more of these wedding planner groups out of business. And in the lawsuit, I do believe they were given significant monetary damages. This bill allows someone to have a defense. It doesn't mean that anybody can discriminate. Anyone can turn down business. It just says, wait a minute, let's hear the story. Are you a member? Let's take an example here. Let's say you're a member of the Catholic Church and your religion says, no, you cannot enable gay weddings. Okay, that at least gives you a defense in the lawsuit. That's essentially what this is all about, because, as you had correctly pointed out, people were going in, they were targeting people who they knew had a religious belief that would not allow them, within the confines of their religion, to service that particular group. Now, take it to the next step. Let's just say that you are a Muslim wedding planner, and you are very devout, or Jewish for that matter, and the couple that comes in, man and woman, says, we want to have a giant ham and a giant roast pig as part of our wedding. Well, that Muslim wedding planner, under this new bill, will have the right to say, no, I cannot serve you because it is against my religion. The way it currently stands in states without this protection is that Jewish couple or that Muslim couple could say, wait a minute, you have to provide that big stuffed pig, and if you do not do it, we're going to sue you, and we are going to win. That's what this is about. This was protection for people, very narrow. It didn't say you can just say no. It said this is a defense if they sue you. And I think it's really critical to understand that this is protecting the rights of Americans who have deep-seated and provable religious convictions. It gives them some defense in a lawsuit. They may end up being sued and lose.
Is it only religion?
It's the defense of religion, religious rights, so I believe it is in most cases.
So my religion says I'm not going to sell Bill Ayers a firearm.
Well, Bill Ayers is not a member of a protected group. We have moved into the point now in this country where you're not allowed. Now, I don't know if it's by law or by just socially accepted, but you're really not going to be able to publicly say, nor put a sign up outside your business saying we do not serve gay people, for instance. We know that you cannot do it with race. We know that you cannot do it with sex. There are probably some other groups. But here's my real problem with this. Unlike sex or race, your sexual orientation is essentially self-defined. We're seeing this with who was the decathlon guy who was married to the
Bruce Jenner.
Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner was apparently one of the better-looking men in the whole country, and decided that he was not comfortable with his self-description of gender. The problem is, if you are dealing with someone and you do turn down their business for whatever reason, or you don't give them the promotion, or you don't hire them, or you lay them off, they can easily say, suppose they get a suspicion that they're going to be laid off from their job. They can easily say, wait a minute, I'm gay, and bingo, if you lay them off shortly thereafter, that's a lay-down winner. This is going to generate, if it's allowed to expand, it's going to generate lawsuits galore. But, of course, it has a little applicability to this particular very narrow defense of religion law. And as you said, It's nothing new. The media's picked up on it. Matter of fact, the amazing thing is that Barack Obama, when he was a senator, a state senator in Illinois, voted for virtually the identical law. It is the law that is in place in Illinois. It is in place in Connecticut, which is really kind of interesting because not Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and on and on and on.
To me, it's a common sense law when I read it.
Well,
and listen,
do we believe that the people with deeply seated religious views should at least have some defense and have the right to explain those?
What do you think about Hillary wiping her server clean? Because I got to tell you, this is the 20th state that's done it, and I'm still absolutely convinced that the media fury had nothing to do with the law and everything to do with protecting Hillary Clinton. Because nobody is talking about that witch wiping her server clean.
Well, clearly she's benefiting from it. Again,
Hugely.
I will disagree with you in that was the sole reason for it.
You don't think that's I'm not saying that bill happened or he signed it because of that. I'm saying it's the 20th state that passed the law, and we're only hearing about that state, and it happens to be the week that we discovered she wiped her server clean.
Well,
I think those two things go hand in glove together. Don't misunderstand
I
me.
like you bringing it up, and it may very well be.
There's no question about
I'm less
it.
interested in motivation than I am in reality.
Listen, it always goes to motivation.
And we know
if you want to stop bad things from happening, you better start understanding why they've happened.
Yes, but is the fact that the major news media is liberal and supports Democrat candidates and hides the law breaking of Democrat candidates, is that news?
Is
that something new?
Listen, this is the exact same media that during the presidential primary, the Republican primary, kept picking our front runner for us and then destroying that person. And then they pick the next front runner and destroy that person. These people are very manipulating and very controlling, and we're all debating a law that already existed everywhere, rather than talking about the fact that the Secretary of the United States of America wiped her server clean, which was a clear violation of federal law.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We saw the same thing going on with the head of the IRS. We saw the same thing going on where the IRS was being used as a weapon. Clear information as to what was going on. The American public did not seem to be concerned. Just an update, a piece of brand new news. Rand Paul, the Republican senator from, where is Rand Paul senator from? Doesn't
Kentucky.
matter. From Kentucky. Has just announced he will not be running for the presidency.
I'm disappointed, not because I don't think he could have won, but I would have liked to have seen his particular ideology injected into the debate.
Well, sadly, you will see it because it's my understanding that he's going to be supporting Jeb Bush.
He's going to support Jeb Bush?
That's my understanding.
Where are you hearing that from? That one did surprise me.
On
the
the
first
internet.
tidbit did not surprise me.
I know.
Well, if it's on the internet, it's true.
It's got to be true if it's on the internet.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Holy mackerel, that's some ugly news. Is that serious, or is this a April Fool's nonsense?
No, it's not serious. I believe it to be true. But I have yet to see another confirmation. But it was on a site that I do trust. But of course, we've seen things. But But let's just segue just away from that for one sec, or use this, because this is one of the reasons we get the kind of people for candidates for almost every elected office, certainly at the higher levels, is because every single thing, every nuance that anyone has said, written, or been lied about, as we found out that Harry Reid was flat out lying about Mitt Romney's not filing income tax, everything that's been said about these folks is blown up. And then, as you have correctly noticed, that the media, being liberal, having a long history of supporting Democrat issues and Democrat candidates, they will then change the focus whenever necessary, or they will refine the focus, or they will distort the focus to make their people look good.
And then they watch the goldfish effect. Listen, if you think the economy is getting better, stay tuned, because I want to talk about the bettering economy when we come back from this break.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, in with Jim Riley today. And listen, I got to tell you, we were talking a little bit off the air, and a point was made. I want to share it before we dive into the coming gas tax bump and the economy.
Ooh.
And the point is this. In fact, I was pouring a cup of coffee and I'm doing the math in my head. There are some 325 million Americans, depending on who's telling the story, plus a whole bunch of illegal immigrants, and we can debate that number. Bottom line is there's a lot of people. And so far we've heard of a baker and a photographer that refuse to do gay weddings. And when I look at the story in total, this is about discrimination, but it isn't about discrimination of the Islamic faith. It isn't about the Jewish faith. This, in my mind, is a discrimination against Christians. All of this, to me, is a big, gigantic pot of nonsense being poured over the top of any Christian that will openly admit in the public arena that they're a Christian. That, to me, is really the bottom line. It's an attack on American traditional faith. And so for that, I'm going to keep pushing back, folks. I just am. But
I would agree with you, by the way.
Holy moly, folks, I'm telling you now. Think the economy is getting better?
I just want to get invited back on the show, so I'm just changing my view. I'm bending to the will of the media.
I'm telling you, folks, that boy ain't right. Think the economy is getting better? Tip the gas prices up even just a little bit and see what happens. Don't let the lessons of history escape the reality of where we are today, and don't think for a second that our supposed good fortune can be attributed to anything other than the fact you still got more money in your pocket when you pull away from the pump. I tell you that because what we're watching is the debate in here in Michigan over a coming gas bump price, tax sales price, etc. If we think that our economy is getting stronger and it's not still very fragile, we are fooling ourselves. The good news, though, is that the media is reporting, our local media is reporting that the most recent poll shows that 66% of voters, both Democrat and Republican, oppose this catastrophe we call Proposition 1.
Yeah, that was frankly a surprise to me. This made a fair amount of news on local TV and local radio yesterday, where they announced a poll that had, I would assume, I didn't read the poll myself, but I would assume that they were polling likely voters, which, of course, will be the big issue. It's a May election. The turnout is expected to be very, very low. I don't think that there's really anything else other than maybe a few local millage elections that will be voted on that date. So those who have educated themselves enough to either be for or against this this massive tax increase, by the way, this is a $2 billion per annum and would grow every year tax increase, which will go in perpetuity, will go on forever. Remember, this is taking $2 billion out of the pockets of businesses, families, and individuals within our state and giving it to the politicians.
I was talking.
So that can't be good in the long haul for the state. And as a result, everyone's going to have to, every business, every individual, every family is going to have to pay more for gasoline forever, in perpetuity.
I was just talking to a fellow that lives in my area, Spring Lake area, who is a road engineer. It's what he does by trade. He says that a state contracted road costs consistently 30% more than does a local contracted road. And I listened to that math. I'm going, does anyone think that before we give the state one more penny, we should demand that they change the way that they do business with things like prevailing wage? He said they've got a book, and if there's a question about anything, common sense has absolutely nothing to do with it. They look it up in the book, and whatever the book says, that's it, period. And you sit and you listen to that. Looking in the book, let's get a little clearer. They look in the book for how much? For the price. No, for how to contract. How they're going to contract.
Which is how they bid it and why they pay 30% more.
Right.
So that's how it works out, because they must use companies that use prevailing wage. And remember, prevailing wage is not just paying individual workers a significantly higher wage than the market would bear in certain areas. It is the work rules, which of course we know that Toyota and Honda, when they won all these moves to build in the southeast of this country, their work rules, the rules that defined how the employees had to work, tend to be 1 or 2 or 3 pages, whereas the work rules for the UAW, which is General Motors, of course, the recently bankrupted General Motors and Ford and Chrysler, are hundreds and hundreds of pages. And in addition to work rules and wages, it is all of the benefits that are involved, pensions and other things. So it is basically the unions have forced higher wages and higher costs by making contributions to politicians. And the rest of us have to pay that bill, 30% more for our highways.
Your friend Larry messages me on Facebook, says that Ron Paul, he didn't tell me anything about Rand, but said that Ron Paul has endorsed Ted Cruz.
Like I said, I can't confirm the fact that Rand Paul has decided that he's not running. I'm looking to confirm it, and who knows.
Last week we went down the list of where all of this $2 billion, at least how it's going to get taxed. And commercial license plates, commercial over-the-road fees, your license plates, folks, not just mine, yours. No discrimination there. Everyone's plate fees are going to go up. Everyone's sales tax is going to go up. Everyone's price at the pump is going to go up. And it will, as a matter of fact, slow our economy backwards.
Well, okay, now why is that? Explain that. In other words, if the price for gasoline goes up, why would that hurt the economy?
Because people will have less spendable money in their pocket. There's no question that the reason we've got...
And would corporations and companies have less money in their pocket?
I can presume that they'll have less hiring capacity.
Would the trucks that deliver every single thing that we purchase, would they have to have higher costs?
They're going to raise their prices. So we are, as a matter of fact, going to have inflation. We will, as a matter of fact, have less money in our pocket. Whether the roads get done or not, I don't know that. But like I said last week, $2 billion, I ought to buy some ruby slippers because it sounds like we're going to be on the yellow brick road to Oz.
Well, I think there's another maybe side-by-side issue here is, and of course this is going on in almost every state, every township, every county, every school board, the library board, you name it. It doesn't seem that there is ever enough money that you can give to politicians that they don't almost immediately waste it, and then in very, very few years later say, oh my golly, everything's a mess, give us more money. We had a very significant, a 50% increase in our sales taxes from 4% to 6% back in the Engler days. That was supposed to pay for schools. Of course, we then had all these taxes on cigarettes and the lottery and everything else, all going to take care of the schools. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars were created from these tax increases to fix problems that everyone agreed there was a very significant problem. And amazingly, they never got fixed. Matter of fact, they got really, really worse. It seems like the more money we give politicians at every level, the worse things get.
I told you, I chased this on the internet back all the way to Governor Blanchard. And every single spring, we have the same dialogue about we need more money. Friend of ours, Derek, messages, and I didn't forget this, by the way, because I said it's April Fool's. He messages, you guys are forgetting that it's April 1st when the Rand not running and Ron Paul endorsing Ted Cruz.
I'm sorry, what was that?
He's our friend Derek. He's saying that it's April 1st Fool's joke.
I might have fallen for it. Might be, but it was on the internet. It's got to be true.
It's got to be true if it's on there. You're absolutely right.
Look,
so you got Ron Paul.
Let's withdraw that. Let's withdraw that until we get some confirmation.
Ron Paul, a classic libertarian, is introducing Ted Cruz, who sounds like a preacher. I'm not picturing that. I'm trying to, but I'm not seeing it. And you got Rand, who's been running for 2 years.
No, what I read was
not a candidate.
What I read was that Rand, Ron Paul's son, was going to be siding with Jeb Bush, who I would agree that's an incongruity that should have raised my.
Isn't it a little early for these guys to decide who they're endorsing? I mean,
no, but he pulled out. I mean,
okay.
that's a plausible,
okay.
Probably incorrect, but it is a plausible, hey, I'm not going to run and I'm going to support X. In part, and why it's not too early is because if you do that, you may be the person who's picked to be the VP candidate.
And another,
or as has been threatened to some of the folks who are considering running against Hillary Clinton.
I mean,
publicly, if you're going to make some noise and run against Hillary Clinton, you're not going to get that cabinet position.
Well, the thing is that if you decide you're going to run to be president, you become a target by the opposing side. So there's more time for them to dig out the stuff.
Yeah, the problem with
absolutely.
that is the problem with that theory is that it takes a ton of dough to run, and if you're not right now able to collect some money, you're not a viable candidate. That's just the unfortunate reality.
But you don't need to officially announce. You can do like Hillary Clinton has done. You can do like all of the Save One, all of the Republican candidates. You can create a committee and you can raise money. And the committee is an exploration committee. So there are ways to get around it. But as you just said, once you announce, then the focus is on you. And as Mike has said, the focus by the mainstream media is always to the negative of the conservative candidates.
One of our friends sent a link to the show's Facebook page, and I guess it makes me laugh two ways. The first is that it confirms, if you will, because it is on the internet, that Ron Paul endorses Ted Cruz for president April 1st, 2015. But what made me start laughing when I was trying to read it is the heading on this website. I think it's I can't see the link anymore, but it's the Socialist Republic, Economic Slavery for the Collective Good.
There's no bias there. There's no intent to
mislead. It made me start laughing when I saw that. I couldn't stop myself. So the moral of all of that story is that you're voting yes on Prop 1.
No, I think Prop 1, which is this massive increase on taxes for, again, not just your family and not just your children, but for your employer. No, I think this is a mistake. Any number of alternative options to repair our roads and bridges have been not just floated, but very specifically put together. The state of Michigan is expanding by leaps and bounds under this Republican governor, Republican House, and Republican Senate. If in fact we give them an extra $2 billion, you can be sure within the next 10 or 15 years, certainly within the next 5 years, they'll be coming up with some other enormous need for money.
What about this Adopt a Highway program? Maybe everybody ought to adopt a part of the highway and fix it instead of just picking up the litter.
Jim Riley says that he wants to have a hand in helping, so he needs to be the first guy out of the box. Adopt a highway, get a shovel and some asphalt, and get going.
The Muskegon Republican Party did adopt a 2 or 3 mile portion highway. We picked up trash.
We can do a show by remote and watch him do it. That'd
it was
be
great.
Fun.
Well, you would see my behind because I was bent over the entire time.
Well, there's an ugly vision, folks.
Well, but back to your gas tax and gas prices. One of the reasons the economy's gotten a little bit better, and this is a sheer fact, when you have to pay less for fuel for your homes, it's natural gas is at 15-year lows.
It is. Listen, I got to stop you for just 1 second.
It's almost an impossible thing to do.
Oh God, you have no idea, folks. Oh my goodness, it's like a chainsaw with no cut. It isn't one of the reasons. It is the reason. Energy costs, both on natural gas, to your point, and at the pump, have went down dramatically in the last 7 or 8 months. And guess what? The economy in that exact same period of time has gotten much stronger. It's just there's no. Yep. It's not Obama. It's not Snyder or anybody in between. It's gas prices and heating and cooling prices. It's energy.
Let's keep it low.
Meanwhile, by the way, you've got the EPA saying, how can we put all of these rotten energy sources out of business?
You got the EPA, you've got the federal government, Republicans and Democrats together talking about increasing the federal gas tax on your gasoline. You've got states talking about it. And virtually every municipality here in Muskegon County, remember, the road repair bill is only for the state roads. City of Muskegon tells us, oh my gosh, their roads are a disaster. There's no money to fix them. The county road commission just had the millage voted down. County roads are totally not fixable without more and more money. So there's no end to feeding this monster.
Obama plans executive order for UN climate rules, which will absolutely decimate our energy sources in America. And if you don't think that's tied to the economy and your jobs and your ability to buy a dozen eggs, you're fooling yourself.
That's right.
You just are. Absolutely nonsense to separate the issues.
Well, if you're interested in working, you have to have employers. And if you're going to be on a jihad against employers, you're going to have fewer employees.
Wonder how come it works that way.
What a concept. Yeah. How many poor people hire employees? Now, it's rich people that hire employees. And governments, sadly, who don't have any money.
But there is a war against wealthy people, along with Christians. Absolutely. The one thing we want to do is we want to demonize people with traditional faith and anybody that's been successful.
Unless they're in Hollywood or in entertainment.
Then it's okay.
Or their last name is Clinton.
Or Streisand.
Well, she's entertainment.
She's a multimillionaire, and she wants everyone to do wealth distribution except for her. It's an amazing thing.
And we buy into that as a country.
You do. I don't.
Well, I think that I'm not paying enough. I'd just like somebody else to pay my share.
Well, plus you're going to be helping on the roads.
That's right.
That's important.
Picking up trash. Actually, I did that mostly for food.
Wow. Good for you.
Roadkill.
Folks, we will talk to you next Wednesday at 9 a.m. In the meantime, find us on Facebook. Thanks a lot. We'll see you then.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.